5 years ago, it would have been really great advice to say, when the internet gets a little bit crazy, to get off the internet, turn off the computer, get off your phone, and engage in real life. Sometimes you will see a piece of content on the internet that's a little bit brain rot, and you'll see some of the comments saying, okay, that's enough internet for today. And there was this greater distinction between what was found on the internet and the lived experience of everyday daily life. And I wish I could say in this video, if you are kind of fatigued of the highly emotional, triggering nature of the internet, if you are trying to stop being farmed so heavily by the social media algorithms and people farming your emotions and trying to get a reaction out of you and clickbait and all of this stuff, to just turn off the computer and to engage in the real world. Now, unfortunately, in the year of our Lord 2025, I am not as confident in saying that all you need to do to escape this brain rot that exists on the internet is to just get off your phone and turn off your computer and exist in the real world, because we are now in a place where the internet and the real world have merged, and it's not for the better. You're in a place now where you can turn off your computer and your phone and go for a walk out in your neighborhood, and you will notice just the vibes in the neighborhood are very different than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Extremely different. I remember long ago, back in the 2000s, when you would go out into the neighborhood and people would actually greet each other. They'll say, hey, how are you? How are you doing? How's it going, partner? And people were a lot more willing to interact with each other, and they were a lot more friendly with each other. But nowadays, when I walk around, it's totally different. People, they don't even want to make eye contact, and they're a little timid to engage with each other and to even say a simple hello. And I think it's not for the better. To have a lack of trust for your neighbor is a death blow to any community. That's not what we want. And a lot of this is a consequence of the inflammation that people have experienced from the media. And the media exists to inflame you. The media exists in order to freak you out enough so that you're freaked out enough to go back and check the news the next day to see if there's a solution, only for them to freak you out again, and the cycle repeats. So this is how the news cycle and the media tries to keep you hooked. That's their strategy. But what has happened nowadays, which is a glimmer of hope in this whole thing, is that people are starting to catch on to this strategy, and people are starting to have fear fatigue of being afraid and freaked out all of the time, fatigue of being paranoid all of the time. And that's why when you go to a place like Twitter, formerly known as X, and you scroll through it, you used to see a lot of people saying, and this was just recently, urgent, catastrophic, urgent, you must listen. And they have a little siren emoji, and everything is, you must pay attention to this right now. This is breaking news. This is life-changing news. And if every piece of news all of the time is a piece of breaking news, is a piece of urgent news, is a piece of life-changing news, all of the time, every day, 20 times a day, then at what point do people say, okay, maybe it wasn't urgent after all? Because this keeps happening. I keep getting sucked into this, and then nothing happens, or my life doesn't change. And people are just high strung emotionally, and you feel it. And the internet has also alienated a lot of people. Take, for example, just the basic distinction between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The relations between these two parties 15 years ago are very different than the relations between these two parties now. 15, 20 years ago, the relations between these two parties was a lot more cordial, a lot more civil, a lot more respectful. But nowadays, it's literally a food fight. It's a cafeteria food fight where people are slinging food at each other, and each side is further and further being alienated from each other's beliefs. And this sort of alienation, in some part, is absolutely a consequence of the social media algorithms, because the social media algorithms put people in bubbles where, let's say, you have a instinct or you have a desire to maybe become more liberal. And so you start to consume more liberal media, you start to consume more liberal content. And then, of course, what does the algorithm do? It shows you more of that. And then you consume more and then shows you more of that. And before you know it, your entire feed is liberal content. And so your entire paradigm, your entire way of thinking only comes from one perspective. And this cycle repeats into itself over and over again. And it goes both ways. It goes for any worldview where you will maybe just have a fleeting interest in something, and then they show you more of it, and then they show you more of it. And so that fleeting interest kind of becomes something that not only becomes an identity as opposed to a real identity, like, for example, your faith. You have some fake identity and some ideology, but also it makes it so people become so unaccustomed to hearing other points of view, unless those points of views are heard from someone interpreting those facts from your perspective. Then the people start to become intolerant of engaging civilly in discourse. And so I wish I could say, like I said at the beginning of this video, I really wish I could just say, just turn off the internet, turn off the computer, go outside, touch some grass. But we're in a position now where we do go outside and people do touch grass, but the internet follows them outside anyway. And this phenomena, by the way, of people not greeting each other or being as comfortable with each other out in public that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video is not something I've noticed with the older generation. Anytime I see someone who is above the age of 50 or especially above the age of 60, they still wave, they still smile. There's a how are you, how you doing, how's your day? Still. But with the younger generations, the millennials, the Gen Z, that's no longer the case. And I really do pray that one day within our communities, we can come to a place where we can have civil discourse with one another, where we can disagree civilly again, where we can discuss things logically. Because in lieu of logic, in lieu of civil discourse, comes something far, far worse.